Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack complex laws and give you the essential insights you need. Today, we're tackling a really foundational piece of environmental law. It's the National Environmental Management, Waste Act 59 of 2008. Thankfully, most people just call it NEMWA. This act really shook things up in terms of how waste is managed, even how it's defined. We're looking at the latest version, amended up to mid-2023.
Yeah, and our aim today is to not treat this like some dry legal document. Think of it more as a blueprint for sustainable development. NEMWA's main job, put simply, is protecting health and the environment. And it does that by setting out reasonable ways to prevent pollution.
And the reason why this law exists is, well, it's huge. It's rooted right in the Constitution. The preamble itself connects the act to everyone's right to an environment that isn't harmful.
Exactly. And it specifically calls out that, poor waste management hits vulnerable communities hardest. So there's a strong social justice angle here. It's about equity, fundamentally.
Okay, let's dig into the framework then. Starting at the top, what's the Act's philosophy? What's the official hierarchy for dealing with waste?
Right. So the law basically forces a rethink. Sustainable development, it says, demands a very specific order. Top priority number one, waste generation needs to be avoided. Complete.
Right. Okay.
If you absolutely can't avoid it, then you have to reduce it. After that, you look at reuse, then recycling, then recovery. Only when all of those options are exhausted, like as a genuine last resort, only then can you treat it and dispose of it safely.
Wow, okay. That totally turns the usual approach upside down, doesn't it? You're saying landfill isn't the default, it's actually defined as a failure.
Precisely. A failure of planning, a failure of process. And this whole idea is baked into the definition of waste itself. Something is waste, unwanted, discarded, but there's a legal way out.
A way out? How?
Under the Act, something stops being waste once there's an approved application to reuse it or recycle it or recover it, and crucially, that plan is actually put into action.
Huh. Why does that technical detail matter so much? For businesses, I mean.
Oh, it matters hugely. Because if something is legally classified as waste, it triggers a whole load of regulations, compliance costs, tracking requirements, potential liability. It's heavy.
Right.
But
yeah,
if a company can get approval to view that discarded item not as waste, but as a resource, something they can recover value from it, massively cuts their regulatory burden. It lets them engage in that circular economy idea without being bogged down by waste law constantly. That ceasing to be waste part, that's the key legal hook encouraging circularity.
that makes a lot of sense. A huge incentive. Okay, let's quickly touch on the main categories of waste the Act deals with.
Sure. So broadly, you've got general waste. This is most of the stuff councils handle: household rubbish, office waste, inert stuff like rubble, building waste. Doesn't pose an immediate danger. Then you have hazardous waste. Now, this is different. Much stricter rules apply. It contains things that, because of what they are, chemically or toxicologically, could seriously harm health or the environment. The rules for handling, tracking, storing hazardous waste are way, way tougher.
And who's responsible for managing all this? You mentioned a general duty of care. Who does that fall on?
It falls very broadly. The Act calls them the holder of waste. And that term covers basically anyone who touches the stuff, imports it, creates it, stores it, moves it, processes it, treats it, or gets rid of it.
So pretty much everyone in the chain.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And Section 16 lays out this duty. It says they have to take all reasonable steps to, first, minimize how much waste they produce and how toxic it is. Second, manage it so it doesn't cause a nuisance, bad smells, noise, looking awful. And third, make sure it's treated or disposed of in an environmentally sound way.
It's not just ticking boxes then, it's about managing the actual impact on the ground. Okay, how does the government coordinate all this? How does NEMWA make sure national, provincial, and local levels are all working together?
It sets up a fully integrated planning system. At the top, the national minister creates the National Waste Management Strategy. That's the big picture for the whole country.
Right.
Then, crucially, provincial departments and, importantly, the municipalities, they had to develop their own integrated waste management plans, IWMPs for short.
And these IWMPs, they have real clout because they link into local budgets, is that right?
Absolutely crucial point. The municipal IWMPs must be built into the municipality's main integrated development plans, the IDPs. And that integration is key. It means waste planning isn't just some environmental side project. It becomes a core service priority that has to be budgeted for, right alongside roads, housing, water. It forces environmental thinking into the heart of local government planning.
Makes sense. Strategy needs resources, which leads us to the money side. The Act brought in waste management charges, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Section 13A. The minister, working with the Minister of Finance, has to publish a pricing strategy for these charges. And look, this isn't just another tax grab. It's designed as a specific funding mechanism.
How does it work in practice for, us?
Well, typically you might see it built into the price of certain products or maybe as a fee on packaging. The key thing is that this money is supposed to be ring-fenced. It's specifically meant to boost reuse and recycling efforts, maybe fund projects in disadvantaged areas, and cover the costs of actually monitoring if waste management is working.
And there's a specific body set up to handle these funds, right? To make sure they go where they're supposed to.
That's the Waste Management Bureau. It was set up within the department, kind of like a specialist agency. Its main goals are promoting waste minimization and recycling, sure, but a really vital job is managing the flow of that money collected from the waste management charges.
So it's the engine making sure the financial side actually supports the Act's goals.
Exactly. It ensures that the financial pressure put on producers actually gets channeled into building real alternatives, like better collection systems, sorting facilities, instead of just vanishing into general government funds.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly. What about specific problem waste streams? How does the Act target the really tricky stuff coming out of industry?
There were a couple of powerful tools for that. First, the minister can declare something a priority waste. This happens if a particular waste stream is a serious threat because there's just so much of it, or because it's particularly nasty stuff. Think specific chemical byproducts, for instance.
And what happens when something gets declared a priority waste?
It triggers specific mandatory management measures. Often, the industries producing that waste have to get together and develop a formal industry waste management plan detailing exactly how they're going to handle it safely.
Okay. And the second big tool, which has huge implications globally, is extended producer responsibility, or EPR.
EPR.
Yes.
Yes, this is a really fundamental shift. It legally extends a producer's responsibility for their product way beyond the factory gate, right into the post-consumer phase, what happens after you, the consumer, are done with it.
How does that change things?
It's a game changer because it shifts the cost. Traditionally, municipalities, and therefore ratepayers, picked up the bill for dealing with packaging waste, old electronics, etc. EPR pushes that financial responsibility and sometimes the physical responsibility for collection and recycling back onto the producer. The logic is they're best placed to redesign the product to be less wasteful in the first place.
So what kind of things can an EPR scheme actually require a producer to do?
Oh, quite a lot. The minister has powers to require them to set up funding mechanisms for recycling. They can mandate specific labels on products so people know how to recycle them. They can even force companies to do a full life cycle assessment on their products.
A life cycle assessment.
Yeah, looking at the environmental impact from cradle to grave. And under Section 17, they can even be required to use a certain amount of recycled material in their new products. It's about closing that loop.
That's a really significant shift in responsibility. Okay, let's pivot from products to the land itself. Part 8 of the Act deals with contaminated land. And the really striking thing here is that it applies even if the contamination happened before this Act existed.
Yes, that retroactivity. It's probably one of the most, let's say, legally debated but environmentally vital parts of NEMWA.
Yeah.
It essentially says past pollution doesn't get a free pass.
But how is that justified legally if they weren't liable back then?
The justification is essentially that the current risk to public health and the environment overrides the historical lack of liability. Protecting people now from dangerous contamination is paramount.
Okay, so how does the cleanup process actually work under the Act?
Well, it usually starts when the minister or the provincial counterpart, the MEC, that's a member of the Executive Council for Environment Affairs, they identify an investigation area. This would be a place where risky activities happened in the past, or where there's suspicion of contamination. This triggers a requirement for the current landowner, or whoever caused the pollution if they can be found, to do a detailed site assessment report.
And if that report comes back positive, shows contamination and risk,
then the land gets officially declared a remediation site, and a legally binding remediation order is issued. This order spells out exactly what needs to be done to clean up the site or manage the risk.
Is this information public?
Yes. The minister has to maintain a national contaminated land register. This lists all these sites, the nature of the contamination and what remediation is required. It's there for transparency so future buyers or the public know the history and status of the land.
Okay, let's talk about the final piece, making sure people actually comply. If you want to run any kind of significant waste operation, you need a license, right? Who issues those?
That's right. Any activity listed in Schedule 1 of the Act, these are the defined waste management activities, needs a license. Who issues it depends on the scale and type of activity.
How so?
Well, the national minister generally handles the big stuff. Hazardous waste facilities, activities with international implications, or things that cross provincial borders. The Minister for Mineral Resources deals with waste from mining. For most other activities, it's the provincial MEC who's the licensing authority.
And when they consider an application, they don't just look at the plans, they look at the applicant themselves.
Correct. There's a very important step called the fit and proper person test. Section 59. Before issuing a license, the authority has to check. Has this applicant broken environmental laws before? Have they violated NEMWA itself or the Maine National Environmental Management Act or other waste laws?
So it's trying to prevent repeat offenders.
Exactly. It's a key accountability check. You don't want companies with a bad environmental track record just getting a new license to potentially cause more problems.
Given all this structure and these duties, the penalties for non-compliance must be pretty serious.
They absolutely are, and they have to be, to reflect the seriousness of environmental harm. The penalties are designed to send a strong message.
How strong?
Well, for the most serious offenses, things like dumping waste illegally where you shouldn't, ignoring a cleanup order for contaminated land, or breaking the conditions of your waste license, the maximum penalty is hefty. We're talking up to $10 million in fines, or potentially up to 10 years in prison, or both.
10 million rand or 10 years? Wow.
Yeah, that puts serious environmental crime right up there with major financial crimes or other serious offenses. It establishes a very powerful deterrent, at least on paper.
It's really clear listening to this that NEMWA isn't just one simple law. It's this huge interconnected system. It covers planning, finance, producer responsibility, cleaning up old messes, licensing, and backs it all up with serious penalties. It really is the cornerstone of waste management law here.
It absolutely is. It's officially classed as a specific Environmental Management Act for good reason.
Oh.
Which kind of leads us to a final thought, perhaps a provocative one for you to consider.
Okay.
So this act, as we've discussed, is built around this hierarchy: avoid, reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, dispose last. And it uses financial tools like EPR and waste charges, managed by the Bureau, to push producers and generators in that direction. The big question looking ahead is, how well can these legal and financial tools actually reshape the whole industrial economy? Can they really shift us away from just using stuff and throwing it away towards a genuinely circular, sustainable system of sort of industrial ecology? And beyond the law, what other changes are needed to make that vision a reality? What's the role of us as consumers when the main legal duties fall elsewhere? Something to think about.